In a time when Israel was crushed by fear, one woman rose, not a warrior, not a queen, but a prophetess under a palm tree. Her name was Deborah, called by God, feared by enemies, trusted by a nation. While others doubted, she believed. While generals hesitated, she acted. And through her faith, God turned the tide of an impossible war. This is not just a story of battle. It's a story of bold obedience, spiritual leadership, and what happens when one woman says yes to God. Deborah wasn't placed in power by politics or royalty. She was appointed by God himself. While others built thrones, she sat beneath a palm tree in the hill country of Ephraim. No palace, no army, just divine authority. People from all over Israel came to her, not for gossip, but for justice. She was a prophetess, hearing God's voice when few still listen. She was a judge, settling disputes with wisdom no man could deny. In a male-dominated world, Deborah didn't fight for position. She simply walked in the calling God gave her, and the people followed, not out of fear, but because they recognized God was with her. She stood as a symbol of spiritual clarity in a nation lost in sin. Deborah didn't lead with force, she led with faith, and that made her the most powerful woman in Israel. Israel was under siege. For 20 years, the Canaanite army, led by General Sisera, crushed them with 900 iron chariots. No one could stand against him. No one dared. But Deborah received a word from the Lord. It's time. She summoned Barak, Israel's military commander, and gave him a divine command. Take 10,000 men, go to Mount Tabor. God will deliver Sisera into your hands. But Barak hesitated.
I won't go unless you go with me.
He didn't doubt Deborah's wisdom. He feared the battle ahead. Deborah agreed, but gave a chilling prophecy.
Fine, but the honor will not be yours. God will hand Sisera over to a woman.
Her courage steadied a shaken army. Her faith activated obedience. She didn't pick up a sword, but her voice became the spark that ignited Israel's fight for freedom. She wasn't just a judge. She was a general in the spirit. The day of battle came. Barak led 10,000 men up Mount Tabor, the air thick with tension. Below in the valley, Sisera's chariots lined the fields, gleaming iron beasts, impossible to defeat by human strength. To Israel, it looked hopeless. But to Deborah, victory had already been spoken. At her word, Barak charged. And then God moved. The skies darkened. Thunder rolled. Rain poured down in sheets. The ground turned to mud. The mighty iron chariots, once symbols of Canaan's strength, became useless, stuck and spinning. Panic broke out in Sisera's army. The soldiers ran. Barak and his men pursued, cutting them down one by one until not a single warrior remained. Sisera, the great general, abandoned his army and fled on foot, alone and humiliated. But this wasn't just a military win, it was a divine ambush. God didn't need weapons. He used weather, faith, and obedience to win the war. Against every odd, Deborah's word proved true. Her courage positioned Barak. Her prophecy opened the way. And when God fights, the impossible doesn't stand a chance. Sisera was no ordinary general. He was feared across nations, known for his brutality, and backed by the most powerful army Israel had ever faced. But now, he was on foot, running, bleeding, defeated. His iron chariots had failed him. His soldiers were gone. His pride shattered. He stumbled toward the tents of the Kenites, neutral nomads, unlikely to choose a side. There he met Jael, the wife of Heber, a quiet woman seemingly harmless. She stepped forward calmly and welcomed him in.
Come, my lord, don't be afraid.
He entered her tent and collapsed. She gave him milk to drink, covered him with a blanket. He asked her to stand guard at the door, and then he slept. But while Sisera slept, Jael made a decision. She took a hammer and a tent peg, and with steady hands she struck the final blow. One hit, silence, justice. When Barak arrived, Jael showed him the body.
This is the man you were chasing.
And just like that, Deborah's prophecy was fulfilled. The war ended not with swords or kings, but with the courage of a woman who feared God more than man. The battle was over, the enemy crushed. Israel stood free once again, but Deborah didn't celebrate with trophies or titles. She lifted her voice and sang. In Judges chapter 5, Deborah and Barak sang a song, not just to remember the battle, but to honor the one who won it. They sang of how leaders arose and people offered themselves willingly. They remembered how the heavens fought, how even the stars seemed to battle against Sisera. They praised Jael, calling her most blessed among women in tents. This wasn't just music, it was testimony, a declaration that the victory belonged to the Lord. Deborah's song reminded the nation, strength doesn't come from numbers or chariots or men. It comes from obedience, from courage, from a heart that follows God, no matter the cost. Her words echoed through generations, written not just in scrolls but in legacy. And for the first time in years, Israel had rest, 40 years of peace, because one woman dared to believe God's voice was enough. Deborah didn't wear armor. She didn't hold a sword, but she carried something greater, faith that refused to be silent. In a time when darkness ruled, she listened for God's voice and followed it. She reminds us that leadership isn't about title, power, or strength. It's about saying yes when God speaks. Maybe you feel overlooked. Maybe you think you're not enough. But if God could use a woman under a palm tree to lead a nation to victory, He can use you too. All He needs is your obedience. Be bold. Be faithful. Because when God calls, even the quietest voice can shake kingdoms.